Today I want to get into RM possibly in trouble and what people are saying about the military. I want to get into fans shaming RM after posting with someone at a party. And then we have security forcibly holding back a Sasaeng fan and what happened. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave Desai. Hater or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. Alright, it's Dumplings. Hey Spling Mug Merch, and let's go. If you are unaware, Doyoung from NCT recently got attacked by an alleged Sasaeng fan. I think this was definitely interesting because everyone likes to throw around Sasaeng fan every time a fan gets aggressive or whatever. And typically I like to save that word for people who have the intention of hurting the idol. However, we never know who is planning on hurting who because we can't read their minds. So I get that as a reason to call anyone aggressive a Sasaeng fan. But I do think there is a difference between someone who is overly excited and just can't control themselves versus someone who has malintention. So what happened? Doyoung was at a fashion show in Milan. He recently became the ambassador of Dolce & Gabbana, and of course he was invited to go. A lot of fans found out which hotel he was staying at, which in many cases would be considered very bad, but a lot of this stuff was public. If anyone posted any gifts that Dolce sent to Doyoung's room or anything like that, the hotel would naturally come out very quickly. The staff of Dolce would also know many of the other people. I personally still would not show up at the hotel, but if you choose to do that, that's your decision. Doyoung actually came out of the hotel room on the balcony and greeted everyone outside. He waved and smiled. Many people said that Doyoung was just doing that to be polite, but was actually really annoyed when people showed up. But as always, the idols have the option to literally not go outside and wave. Idols have done that all the time. Doyoung then went downstairs later and greeted everyone. He went ahead and signed a few albums, and he did look a bit overwhelmed. There was definitely a lot going on. In a situation where there are 50 people literally yelling at you or screaming things at you, it's hard to understand what to listen to. There's also flashing camera lights, and you want to make sure you're not rude to anyone. It's extremely disorienting, so when a random fan jumped out and was very aggressively trying to get near Doyoung, you can only imagine how frightened he must have gotten in that moment. You're already kind of like, whoa, this is a lot. And then in that moment where someone would jump out at you, you're not exactly sure what is happening, which is why security is so important, not only for the protection, but to guide you and move you along. The security ended up pulling back and pushing the alleged Sasaeng who jumped out to get Doyoung to sign her album. Doyoung was a bit frightened, and then security pushed him to leave. Of course, if this situation did not happen, the chances of Doyoung possibly staying a bit longer would be higher. But since it did happen, it wasn't going to be safe for him to continue. Many fans were upset, but more so upset that Doyoung was possibly upset. And I think it's easy to get upset in such a situation, but I don't think he was thinking about it too much. I think maybe he went back home later that night and maybe called a friend and talked about it as a funny story. But I really don't think it's anything he's absolutely traumatized by. It unfortunately happens a lot in K-pop, and idols do get used to it and often forget about it as well. They might up security next time for situations like this, but that doesn't mean they're constantly thinking about it or hyperfixating the way the fandom might. The mindset with a lot of the K-pop fandoms is to hyperfixate on everything, and these idols don't have the time or mental capacity to fixate on things. They do 12 things in one day. The activity they did in the morning, by the nighttime, feels like it happened 2 weeks ago. Of course, that doesn't mean there aren't any concerns when you're an idol or things that don't linger in your mind. I'm sure they do, but I'm also saying this as a way to say that we shouldn't be too worried about them. And then of course, in turn, realize that they are intelligent, well-rounded individuals who have experienced more than any of us have ever experienced, and also have experienced their fair share of trauma. Look at their trainee program. All this to say their tolerance for things is higher. However, there's much bigger things that I don't think higher tolerance is going to solve. For example, the military has definitely been a big concern. There's been some conversation about the safety of the boys at the camp, and I really do think there is some concern here. The camp wasn't designed for a specific level of protection. I think they assume most people aren't just going to break in and attack the people at the camp, and if they do, it's not like the soldiers are not trained to know how to fight. However, the act of someone climbing in the walls or anything Like, that is less of a concern when the people that are possibly hurting the BTS members at the camp are employees. There was a situation where a nurse had tried to give Jin a vaccine and lied to officials about where she was going, and how can you protect yourself from that? You're supposed to be able to trust a nurse. People were then having this conversation. The boys are likely terrified of going into the service. Jin is really popular. However, he does not have the most stalker fans. Neither does J-Hope. So if these two are getting into these situations, what is it going to be when Jimin or Jungkook enlist? So it starts to irk ARMYs when people are leaving comments forcing RM or the BTS boys to enlist right now, when they likely could be many reasons why they're scared to enlist. I don't know if the boys are thinking about the situation I just mentioned, but if this is a consideration on why they would want to delay their service, can you blame them? I wouldn't want to go either. That sounds scary. Now, do I think if RM goes next, he will be in trouble? Not really. I think RM reads the headlines more than anyone else does, and I think he has a pulse more so on what is going on in the fandom as opposed to anyone else. So I think he was aware of what happened with Jin. And going forward, maybe they can negotiate a thing where the boys only get treatment, vaccines, or whatever it is by the internal HYBE medical team. I think that could be arranged, and special treatment for situations like this do happen a lot, so it's definitely one less concern to have if they are able to do that. But the concern is not our concern, because I would imagine RM or any of the BTS boys care more about their health and safety more than we do, so they'll do whatever they need to do. If you are feeling a bit emotional or possibly want a community to enjoy and chat BTS with, come over on Patreon. We react and fangirl to all sorts of BTS reality shows, music videos, you name it. And we currently have a limited $1 tier that is open with some limited spots. So if you're interested, I will link the Patreon at the top of the description bar. A lot of the enlistment talk and people asking RM to go now came from a photo drop during Bruno Mars concert after party. If you don't know what happened, Bruno Mars had a concert and several idols attended this show. It was later believed that many of the celebrities had preferential treatment and got the better seats. However, the organizers denied that. This makes a lot of sense. If the better seats are going for thousands, they would of course prefer if those seats sold and they would make money rather than having a bunch of celebrities take those seats, possibly for free. And then it's a whole other thing if the celebrity just chose to pay for it themselves. However, there was an after party and a lot of big celebrities were there, and RM was there as well. He got a chance to network and meet with a lot of cool people. He ended up taking a photo with a woman that appeared to be wearing a lace corset that was sheer. She is also obviously very beautiful. People were saying that they lost RM, as in RM is for sure dating her. I don't know where this mentality comes from, that any girl that is hot that the boys talk to must be dating RM. It just doesn't work that way. Both the girl and RM have careers, and you also don't even know if the girl is dating anyone currently. And then aside from all that, the only prerequisite for RM and the girl to be dating each other is how they look, not even that they're emotionally or mentally compatible. Do people solely just date for looks? That makes no sense to me. That relationship will last 3 weeks. So people were wondering who this girl was and why she was allegedly wearing a sheer top with RM. First off, the top is not sheer. You can tell it's slightly different color from her skin, so it's just a nude color top. And then second of all, her name is Sonji Park. She is allegedly one of the managers of the event, so the idea of dating her actually makes a whole less sense now, because she would be running around trying to make sure all her guests are having fun and all that. So aside from a photo or a small conversation, she wouldn't have time to linger, make out, or whatever. Also, this idea that if the BTS boys are around a hot girl, they're dating them, it just makes no sense. The industry is filled with models and hot girls. There's no shortage of hot girls, hot idols, and hot models. Looks are really not anything that a celebrity has to ask their partner, because that person is on TV. They got into the industry because they look good. I honestly can't stress that enough. It's not seen as a thing that is rare in the industry. Both RM and Sonjae got shamed a lot. RM was then asked to enlist and stop goofing or dating. And then Sonjae probably got some hate from ARMYs because they thought RM was dating her. And RM likely met a ton of other girls that night and was kind. He's at these events to talk and network, otherwise he'd go home. And I think partly ARMYs were jealous or upset that the BTS boys didn't just rush back home or to their hotel and do a live stream. Instead, they're at an after party. But I think it's okay for them to have a life and meet people. This is going to help them in the long run. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out my Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thanks for this lovely comment right here. Love you, bye.